Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plale, joined by Nick Watts in the studio. We have Tom Siegel and Paul Binfield from Paddy Power on the line as well. Coming up on today's show, we're going to review the weekend's action and see what it means for next year's classics. We'll also get the lads' eye catchers, answer some of your questions and pick out a few horses to watch over the next week as well. But first, we're going to start off with the Haydock Sprint Cup, which takes place on Saturday. First off, Watsy, Harry Angel is coming back from Ascot, where he had a really horrible incident in the stalls. Can you oppose him 2 from 2 at Haydock?
No, I wouldn't. As you said, he's been to Haydock twice. He's won twice a Group 2 in this race last season. He's won both of them by upwards of 4 lengths. So he hasn't just won the races, he's absolutely destroyed them. And that's what he did to Tasley in this race last season. You're right to say he's on a retrieval mission because he went to Ascot last time and didn't work out. You know, obviously something he got stirred up in the stalls, lost his race at the start. But that doesn't put me off, funnily enough, because he's always on a retrieval mission when he comes back from Ascot because he never wins there.
Good point.
You know, so from that perspective, it doesn't bother me particularly. I'm sure Clive Cox wouldn't be running him at the weekend if he wasn't fresh and well and ready to do himself justice. And there's something about Haydock that just seems to agree with him. And based on those last 2 performances, I certainly wouldn't be opposing him, because whereas Ascot you could genuinely oppose him because he doesn't get the job done there, he does at Haydock, and you know, it's familiar ground for him. And I expect another top-class display.
Okay, Binners, how is he in the market? Good to see you on Saturday, by the way.
Yeah, it was lovely to see you, Maddie, and it was particularly lovely to see you holding hands with your boyfriend at Sandown. It was an emotional moment for me. I didn't want to talk to you too long. I didn't want to ruin your moment.
I hate you
but
so much.
Anyway, we're 5 to 4, Harry Angel. He was 6 to 4 before the sad news that Blue Point isn't going to run on Saturday. He heads for the Flying 5 at the Curragh instead. And then we go 7 to 1, the Tin Man James Garfield, 8 to 1, Brando, Limarto and Tasleet, and it's 12 to 1 Bar.
Okay, Tom, I've got a feeling that I'm going to agree with what you're going to say based on what I've heard you say in the past. Who are you betting on?
I'm more interested in the old Sandown reunion, if truth be told. Your poor mates who've been the Maddie Plale fan club. What's happened now? They're all heartbroken, aren't they, Binners, now?
I reckon they probably are. One of them might get a mention in a minute, Tom, the boys from Reading.
Sorry, Maddie. I didn't know that was coming. I'd have kept out of it if I'd have known the boys were going to get another mention.
Talking of Reading, though, Tom, I didn't go to the Old Firm game yesterday. I went to the Old Farm game, Norwich against Ipswich, and Ipswich managed to get a draw, and I believe they've gone above you in the table now.
Well, everyone's above us, Spinners. Everyone's above us. We are as bad as it could possibly be. I don't think we'll win a game. We're that bad. Anyway, back onto the
Cup.
Okay, well, I think the Tin Man's the one, Maddie. I think he was desperately unlucky at Ascot behind Merchant Neighbour, and then last time behind Polly Dream in the Foray. I mean, look at the result. Trap 13 beat Trap 20, then Trap 3, then Trap 17, 11, 19, 18, so on. So he did incredibly well to finish where he did. For me, Harry Angel's a no-no at 5 to 4, whatever Bin has said there. Hey, look, he's coming off the back of a run where he's got injured, he's got trapped in the stalls. Too many negatives for me at that price. For me, Tin Man 7 to 1's a great each way bet.
I'm with you. I like the Tin Man as well. Binners, if you had to pick one, away from Harry Angel, who would it be?
Well, I've got difficulties with that, Maddie, because I do agree with Nick. I think Harry Angel will win this. If I did go for one, probably James Garfield with Frankie flying up from Kempton. See how the 3-year-olds get on against the older sprinters. But while 5 to 4 is too short for me, and I won't be playing, I think for the reasons Nickel has already outlined, I think he's quite a good thing in this race.
Okay, so 2 votes for Harry Angel, 2 against. Moving on to the return of Enable in the September Stakes at Kempton on Saturday. Watsy, do you think, is she going to be as good as she was last season?
Very difficult question to answer that.
It is, isn't it?
You'd imagine with them bringing her back and persevering with her, they're hoping that she will be. And the September Stakes is a nice lead-in for her, for a horse that's been off the track for so long. I doubt there'll be much in opposition to her. It's never the most strongest of races in terms of, numbers and quality. So I imagine she'll get off to a nice start. Very much a watching brief at the weekend, and hopefully she does it nicely, and then we can look forward to the autumn with her. So it's just a stepping stone. It's a good choice of race. It makes sense to get her back on the track, try and get a win, but do it in the easiest fashion possible.
I know Tom might be a fan of Enable in the Arc. Obviously, she'll have to prove up to scratch on Saturday. But Binners, what price is Enable for the Arc at this stage?
Well, she's joint favourite with Sea of Class, Maddie. They're both 9-2. Then Crackman is at 6-1, 7-1 Larty Dart and Crystal Ocean, and it's 8-1 the rest.
Yeah, Tom, she's a year older. We've not seen her yet, but why do you think she's better than anything that we have seen this year?
I just think her form last year was exceptional. Look, she's trained by the best trainer, which is a big help. If he's bringing her back with the confidence there seems to be about her being where she is, I'd be pretty sure she is being. I mean, look, let's compare her to Harry Angel. I think that's quite a good thing. Harry Angel's run twice this year. First time he's hung all over the track at York, looking like he was my Lay of Ascot, for the simple reason, not that he didn't like Ascot, I didn't like him at York either. So we're talking about a 5-4 shot there, and we're going to have Enable at the same price on Saturday in a much worse race, and I think she'll win doing handsprings and put herself probably 5-2. Something like that for the Arc afterwards.
Okay, what's the who's on your Arc radar at the moment?
I'm getting quite interested in Cracksman again.
Tom will like that.
Well, I mean, I'd like to see him a few points bigger, but I certainly haven't given up on him yet. I don't think that rattling fast ground in the summer really suits him. I think he'll probably be better in the autumn, as he proved last year when he put such a great display at Ascot. It's a shame in hindsight they didn't go for the race last season because, it was a 3-year-old. So there's a possibility they may have missed a boat. But I think all this talk of him going off the game and, he keeps looking at the fillies and all this kind of stuff and he wants to get off to the breeding sheds and all that kind of thing, I think that's nonsense, really. I don't think we've seen the last of Cracksman, and he was arguably a bit disappointing last time out. But again, it's on that really quick summer ground. We've had a baking hot summer, and I just don't think that kind of surface really sees him at his best. He gets run off his feet a little bit. You give him a bit of autumn ground, and I admit, you're not guaranteed to get soft ground in the Arc in the autumn, but it just loses that, that summer hardness, I think, when you get to that kind of stage, because the temperatures dip and there might be a little bit of morning mist and a few showers around. So I think it'll just suit him so much better at the end of the season. And
Poet's Word, he's given the form a bit of a boost. Maybe it wasn't such a disgrace to finish second to him at Royal Ascot. No.
Listen, I'm fully in agreement with Watsy there. Cracksman has just been overlooked far too quickly. For a start, he's won 2 Group 1s this season and finished second in another one. He's not a bad horse all of a sudden. It's just because what happens is horses that lose at short prices, everyone tends to cross them off immediately, don't they? Everyone's got a downer on Cracksman because he lost at a short price at Ascot. If the tables had been terse, everyone would be saying Poet's Word's not that good. Look, Cracksman did really well at Ascot, I thought, because I thought he was beaten before
from the moment he came out.
Basically, he didn't seem to be enjoying himself. He'd had a really hard race at Epsom. I thought he ran as well as could be expected, and as Watsy says, back on.
But does it not
ground.
worry you that he's going to do that again, and he's going to get out the gates and just not want to know, really?
Possibly, but we just been talking about Harry Angel. He's 5-4, isn't he? After having done that last week, this horse is 8-1. So it's all price related, isn't it? Of course, he might do it, but he's 8-1, and bar Enable, he's got the best form. Undoubtedly got the best form, a lot better than Sea of Class, anything Sea of Class has ever done, or Crystal Ocean, or Larty Dar. They're all around the same price, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so therefore you pay your money, take your chance. Of course he could do that, but he's 8-1.
Okay, lots of Cracksman love. A final word on the Arc from you, Binners.
Well, Tom's just said that Poet's Word has got much better form than Sea of Class. I still really like this filly. I thought she was fantastic at York. Given a great waiting ride by James Doyle at the Curragh before that in the Irish Open. I just hope that Enable proves herself on Saturday and that we see these 2 wonderful fillies take each other on at Longchamp, and what an arc it is potentially is with Cracksman, Larty Dar and Poet's Word and possibly Roaring Lion in there as well. It could be a crackerjack affair.
Yeah, you mentioned the fillies, of course, last week. I mentioned what a great record they have in the race, particularly 3-year-olds. Moving on anyway, anything running this week or this weekend that's of interest? There's a Group 3 at Salisbury on Thursday with Dick Poole and the Super Sprint winner Ginger Nuts running there. We've got the Serenia Stakes at Kempton on Saturday. That's going to accompany a Nables race. So have we got any thoughts on any of those contest spinners? I'll go to you first.
I haven't got any thoughts on those contests, Maddie, but I've got a couple of horses for you that I think are interesting. Beat Le Bon for Richard Hannon, a 2-year-old. That one's got 3 entries in the week. Not sure where he'll run, but he was second first time out. Drifted like a barge that day, and still ran a cracking race, 3 lengths back to the third, finishing second. And a little bird in the press room reckons that could be Richard Hannon's 2,000 guineas hope. And I spoke to the Curragh Conjurer, Brendan Duke, this morning. He's got a horse called Macon running at Down Royal on Friday night. That one ran really well at Galway last time, and Brendan says he has to give him a chance on Friday Eve.
Okie dokie. Tom, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have the decks for Saturday out yet, but I have had a look at the Group 3 at Salisbury on Thursday, and Jer Lyons has planning, I think, on bringing a filly over called Burmese Waltz. She's by showcasing. She won by 6.5 lengths last time at Dundalk, and immediately after that he said he's straight into group company, probably the Dick Poole at Salisbury. I think she's probably very good, and I think she'd have no problems beating the one she's up against there.
Okay, Watsy, over to you.
Yeah, I had one for the Dick Poole, but Tom might just blow me out of the water there.
You might blow me out of the water. Yeah. What's he the form I'm?
No, it's horse of Roger Varian's Your Time Is Now. I thought was quite interesting. He ran her at Goodwood in a hood, and it didn't work out for her at all. But took the hood off last time at Newbury, and she beat a horse called Al Hakmar very comfortably by 2.5 lengths. So headgear experiment didn't work. Back to form last time out, won really, really nicely, and she's in the Rockfell later on at Newmarket, and this seems like a good progression for her into Group 3 company. So I'll be interested to see how she goes.
Excellent. Now, did we see a classic winner this weekend? After the break, we'll find out.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. Now, the star on display at Sandown on Saturday was Too Darn Hot. Binners, what price is he now for the 2,000 guineas and the Derby next year? Very impressive indeed.
Well, for the Derby, Maddie, 5-1 favourite from 14, and for the 2,000 guineas, 6-1 favourite from 12. So into favouritism for both of the two big classics in England next year.
Right, initial reaction, Watsy. Too Darn Hot, how good is he?
Loved the performance. I thought it was fantastic. Real joy to watch. There was no hiding place in that field. They weren't mugs. He was beating. The second had won a Chesham at Royal Ascot. Confiding had run really well behind Dark Vision at Goodwood on his last start. So they were a good standard. And I just loved the way he went about the job, everything about it. And yeah, it did take a little while for the turbo to kick in, but I kind of like that in a way, because, you could see Frankie just saying, come on now, you've got to go and do your job. And he thought about it and got the message. And when he got the message, the response was absolutely electric. And, he put daylight between himself and his rivals. That's always what you like to see in a good performance. He's got the breeding. His breeding is absolutely superb. Everything out of that dam seems to be very, very good. And you look at the history of the Solario, traditionally you think of last Saturday as kind of being one of the weaker ones of the summer, but the Solario has really bounced back into kind of fashion. Massar obviously last year. Gosden's always like the Solario. Kingman won the race a few years ago. Ravens Pass won it too, so he tends to save his very best ones for this. And I can completely see Too Darn Hot winning a Derby. I think the 2,000 guineas is the best race for him in terms of a trial. I wouldn't be too disappointed if he got beaten in the Guineas, and I could maybe see him doing that and running a good third or fourth and running a great race, with bringing one with Epsom in mind. I don't see why you would go to a Chester, why you would go to a Dante or something like that with him. He's good enough to run in a classic first up. Might just get done for a little bit of toe if it was really quick ground for the Guineas. But I could see him kind of running an Australia kind of race and finishing a really good third and fourth, and then going up in trip. And I really, really like him for the Derby. I'm not looking anywhere else for the winner.
Oh, impressive. What's his crystal ball there? Plenty of detail looking into the future. Tom, the reason they have this colt is because he was injured as a young horse and therefore they couldn't take him to the sales. And we've seen with other members of the family that they can get injured. Is that something that you would ever think about going forward? And, is fragility something that's been bred into them? Or do you just think he was very impressive and take him on what he did on Saturday?
And look, any horse can get injured, Maddie. If you're having an anti-post bet, you've always got to take that into account. Of course, horses can get injured. But look, he's run twice now before... was it August on Saturday? Or was it first day of September? I can't remember. But before the autumn starts in his 2-year-old career, I can't imagine that there's too much wrong with him now. Like Watsy said, I think he has to be top class, doesn't he? Has to be absolutely top class Group 1 standard. He will be a Group 1 winner. Whether it's the Guineas, I have my doubts. Dubawi, fast ground. I know Night of Thunder won the Guineas for him. I'd be slightly concerned about the Guineas. I don't think the drop back to a mile's any issue at all. He's clearly good enough to run place in a Guineas, perhaps win a Guineas. But for me, I agree with Watsy. I think the Derby is his race. Once again, he's sort of a 1.25 mile pedigree, but Lati Dar's staying very well, and they're talking about her. Well, they were talking about her running in the St. Leger. So I agree with Watsy. I think he's got Derby written all over him, and I think he is undoubtedly top class.
Okay, Ben, as a final word from you on Too Darn Hot.
Well, I can't really add anything to the experts on the show. I will just say the Too Darn Hot bandwagon is rolling away now. A very good friend of mine, Jason Cook, phoned me the evening he won his maiden and said, Jesus, I've just seen something exceptional. So he's a judge. And one of the Reading boys, Jason Hamlin, works for one of our competitors. He's told me that he backed him 33s for the Derby immediately after the race. So he's sitting on a nice slip, and it'll be great to see him, whether we see him in the Dewhurst or...
Middle Park, I think, is it?
No.
No. Sorry, I'm thinking of 10 Sovereigns. Yeah, Dewhurst, was it?
Possibly the Dewhurst or maybe the Racing Post Trophy, but I can't wait to see him again, Maddie.
Yeah, neither can I, and I'm sure plenty of people are very keen on him for next year's Classics as well. My mistake, I was thinking about 10 Sovereigns, who we're going to go on to now. He's going to go to the Middle Park next. Who were you more impressed with, Tom?
I was more impressed with Too Darn Hot. I think going forward, he's the better prospect of the two. In terms of Guineas winners, I sort of might go for 10 Sovereigns out of the two. I mean, he's got a pedigree question mark to answer. But he doesn't run like a horse that won't get 7 furlongs this year. And if you get 7 furlongs this year, Aidan O'Brien said something interesting, something I've always agreed with. He said, if you're really, really good, you can really run over most trips. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, he wouldn't stay 1.5 miles, but he'd have a very, when you're able to run faster than everyone else. I mean, I remember Watsy will remember me and watching Steve Ovett and Seb Coe run from 800 metres to 10,000 metres, and they just beat all those around.
Hold up, I'm not that old.
Yes, you are. 1980s.
Watsy sat here with a face like thunder going.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you are, Watsy. Don't try and pull that one over us.
No, Mo Farah's my sort of era.
You blingy liar. No, they used to, because they were so much better than their opposition. They can tend to stay a bit further than their optimum trip. I don't think 1 mile will ever be 10 Sovereigns' optimum trip. I think probably 6 or 7 will be. But
and it can still win a Guineas if it's not its
win a
optimum.
Guineas. Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. All horses can. You see look at all the Derby winners over the years that have gone back to 10 furlongs, and actually that's been their trip. Yeah. But they win the Derby because they're better than the horses around them. And I think there's often there's been plenty of Guineas winners that have ended up winning Derbies and been better at 1.5 miles, but just simply because they're better than the horses around them. And that obviously is an issue, because I think we've got 3 or 4. Before Saturday, I thought we had one outstanding 2-year-old colt, Calix. He's been injured. After the Saturday, I think there's 3 or 4, because there's another one that I will throw in later if you ask me, from France, that I thought was exceptional too.
I'll definitely ask you about that.
And so I think we're looking now. We throw in Antti Van Dijk as well, at a really, really strong group at the top of the 2-year-old crop.
Okay, and you'd never think about going to the Commonwealth Cup with 10 Sovereigns or anything like that?
You can do, but you can go there after the Guineas, can't you?
That would be a cool route to take for sure.
Yeah, but lots of horses. A few horses have done that, haven't they? A few horses have tried to stay the mile and come back in recent years.
Yeah, they have. What was your thoughts on 10 Sovereigns?
Yeah, I like him. I mean, it didn't excite me the way that Too Darn Hot did.
Why is that? They both pulled miles clear.
Completely differently bred horses. I always like horses to have a bit of longevity and, to go forward and push on. And you'd say with Too Darn Hot's pedigree, he's likely to do that. 10 Sovereigns is completely different. No Nay Never, out of an Exceed and Excel mare. So he might well be destined for great things, but it'll all be over shorter trips. And, being old traditionalist, I do prefer the middle distance horses, but they're both great prospects and both won very well, fantastically well. So it's a lot to look forward to, and the Guineas next year could be an absolutely fantastic race because we've all forgotten about how good Calix was in the Coventry. It's the only classic that John Gosden's never won, so he could easily run Calix and Too Darn Hot to try and complete the set.
He could indeed do. Binners, how did the market react to 10 Sovereigns win?
Well, 10 Sovereigns went 7-1 favourite briefly, Maddie. Must have been one of the shortest timed favourites for the Derby and the Guineas, with Too Darn Hot winning within about 20 minutes of him. But he's 7-1 second favourite now. Too Darn Hot heads the market at 6, and then the injured Calix, who Tom has mentioned, that one's 10-1, and it's 14-1 bar.
And what was your initial reaction to his win?
Well, I loved it, Maddie. I would have concerns about taking 7-1 about him for the 2,000 Guineas. He's only won over 6 so far. They're talking about the middle park, and he's by No Nay Never. So I would have concerns about whether he'll stay the mile, but it'll be interesting to see in the middle park how much speed he does show.
He's not all speed in his pedigree, but you're very right. It will be interesting to see trip-wise where he ends up. Moving on, anything else catch your eye at Sandown, the Curragh, or anywhere else in Britain or Ireland on Saturday?
France, Maddie.
Oh, go on then.
Persian King, a 2-year-old of Andre Fabre's. I don't know if you can see it. If you get a chance to see it, Google him. He's another Kingman. There's 4 or 5 Kingmans around now that look exceptional. He looked more straightforward than all of them. And Andre Fabre, after the race, said we're going to supplement him for the Royal Lodge. And normally that means that's what he does. He likes to get his Guineas horses to have a sighter of Newmarket. He did it with Miss France and a few others over the years. Pennycamp going back a bit, I think, did the same. And I thought that was really interesting that he said he wanted to go to Newmarket. Now, it might be because he likes fast ground, but he was incredibly impressive. And he, after the race, he said, he's the best horse I got. Simple as that. Simple as that. He's the best 2-year-old I've got, Persian King. He's by Kingman. He's really, really good. I think he's going to turn out to be a Guineas player. I'm not even sure half these firms are pricing him up for the Guineas yet, but he's good. He's everything about him, his pedigree says that he'll be very good. And Fabre says he's the best 2-year-old he's got. So that's all you need to know. And
you're gonna be on him and rather than Too Darn Hot for the Guineas then?
Well, I'm not going to be on him because there's no prices on him. But no doubt what will happen is he'll come and win the Royal Lodge and then be 10-1. And I'll think, I should have searched around, should have phoned up and try and got a price. But I like him. Look, he's only won a maiden, but I think he's very good.
Okay, what's the weekend eye catcher?
Yeah, it was 2 for me. I thought Global Applause at Sandown won the sprint very, very nicely indeed. First run for Robert Cowell. Good 2-year-old for Ed Dunlop. He had form behind Harry Angel and Blue Points, horses like that. Kind of got lost as a 3-year-old, but Cowell can do amazing jobs with these horses and he can turn them inside out. And I thought he had that sprint one an awful long way out, and just looked at his entries before and he's in the Air Gold Cup. And he's just the type of horse that Robert Cowell will thrive with. So he was definitely an eye catcher. And one of the winners on the card at the Curragh, the Cambridgeshire, you normally expect it to be a close run thing, but Kenya absolutely zoomed away with it. And
zoomed away.
He's an interesting horse because they obviously thought he was somewhere in the classic picture at the start of the season. They ran him in a few trials, then he wasn't good enough. They ran him in France as a pacemaker for one of their other horses, and horses like this at Ballydor can easily just get lost in the system because they don't turn out to be a classic horse, and they can go off the boil. But they've obviously taken their time with him, realised that he's not a middle distance horse, he doesn't stay, dropped him back to a mile, and hey presto, you saw him win on Saturday. That's a group horse over a mile. Very, very, very impressive. He won't be running in handicaps again.
Oops. I like him as well. Binners, we'll go over to you. Any eye catchers from this weekend?
Yeah, I agree with Watsy. Kenya was in a different continent to the rest of those. Sorry. Laugh aloud in the Atalanta Stakes, Maddie. Only finished fourth, but first run for over 400 days. I loved her last season when she won the Princess Elizabeth Stakes at Epsom. To my untrained eye, I didn't think she was quite 100% match fit, but who knows? She was only beaten 3.5 lengths, and I think she'll be a different proposition wherever she turns up next.
I thought you were saying laugh aloud about your Kenya pun there, Binners, and I thought no one's going to laugh at that.
Yeah, I know. I enjoy it. I'll laugh at it, Nick. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the only thing that matters. Anyway, we'll take a short break now, but we'll be back with some of your questions.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. I'm with Nick Watts, Tom Siegel and Paul Binfield, the dream team as I like to call us. That's probably quite sad. Anyway, listeners' questions. First off, Stephen Piggin asks, are Reading valued to get relegated at 11-8, Tom?
They're a value at 8-11. They are so bad. I went to the Watford game on Wednesday night, and 3 years ago, Maddie, we were better than Watford. This is probably a bit boring for no one that likes football, but we were better than Watford, and now they'd made 11 changes. They played their reserve team, and they should have won 10-0. We were so bad. I've never been more depressed coming out of a football match in my life. I cannot see us winning a game, let alone getting not being relegated. Of course we will, but we're awful. Really bad.
That doesn't sound very cheerful.
It's not cheerful.
Any Reading thoughts, Watsy?
No, I haven't actually. I'm drawing a blank on Reading. I'm an Oxford fan, so
Ooh.
Yeah. So we would have been the Thames Valley Royals at one time in our lives, but Oxford aren't doing great either. So yeah, no bragging rights there.
Whoosh, straight over my head. Anyway, Danny Hazel asks, who is the best the best handicap 3-year-old horse in training? Watsy?
I really couldn't think of one when I looked at this beforehand. There was just one who might do all right in the autumn. The horse that beat Sea of Class in her maiden at Newmarket called Kaylee Dream, trained by Rafe Beckett, run 3 times in the summer on really fast ground. I don't think it's suited. I think she wanted it a bit softer. And because of those 3 defeats, she's running off a mark of 86, I think. And it probably was a complete flash in the pan, her beating Sea of Class. But off 86, I think she could probably pick up a few races in the autumn.
Okie dokie, Tom?
Well, I think we probably saw him on Saturday, Kenya. But his handicap mark will have blown now. But a couple of John Gosdens that he's got entered in the Cambridgeshire. I always think when John Gosden enters 3-year-olds in the Cambridgeshire, it normally means that he feels they've got 10 or so pounds in hand. He's got a couple in there. Argentello, who won at Newmarket the other day, and another one that won at Goodwood, which I can't remember the name of because I'm absolutely useless. I'll remember it in a minute. But
Okay.
Carry on, but I'll remember it in a minute. But they're definitely John Gosden's 3-year-olds that are entered in the Cambridgeshire would be my 2. One of them Argentello, and I'll remember the next one.
Okie dokie. Oh, I can't say that. I've got to stop saying okie dokie according to people. Anyway, okay, Binners, over to you. Best handicap 3-year-old.
Well, you didn't mention Cambridge United winning away at Stevenage on Saturday, Maddie. Stevenage must be a very poor team. Roger Charlton, same line of thought as Tom. I looked at Roger Charlton's 3-year-olds in the Cambridgeshire, came up with one of them, Blue Mist, interesting mark of 88, placed on the all-weather the last 2 times, and interesting, could run in a classified stakes at Ascot on Friday, so I'll be having a look at that one before the weekend.
I've remembered. Style Hunter by Ravens Pass, one at Goodwood, while everyone was watching Roaring Lion and the Ebor and everything. I think Gozzy sneaked one in at Goodwood and might have just got it up in the weights to run in the Cambridgeshire. Style Hunter.
Thanks very much. An early selection for the Hennessy. Nick Watts.
Yeah, good question. I came up with Yanworth. He's rated 148 over fences, £13 lower than he is over hurdles. He wasn't an immediate hit over fences last season. It took him a little while, but he won at Cheltenham, and he had Willoughby Court back in 3rd that day. And there was nothing wrong with his. I think he was beaten 2 or 3 lengths by Willoughby Court at Newbury earlier in the campaign. I just think he's one that he might not reach the top level over fences in, Grade 1 chases, but I think if you dropped him into a handicap, and Kingy did have a look at the Cheltenham Festival, he slung him in the 3 mile handicap on the first day, and I think 148 is a mark that you could take advantage of, and I think just taking on those handicappers rather than those top horses might just suit him a little bit.
I think if his jumping, sticks together for the first half of the race, he's got a chance because he stays very, very well. Tom, are you a Yanworth fan?
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough shout. It's obviously not a fluent jumper by any stretch. It's not natural by any stretch of the minute. I fancy a similar one who's a similar standard hurdler, probably not quite as good as Yanworth. There's a horse called Snow Falcon of Noel Meads. He ran in the Galway Plate last time, and he took about 4 fences with him at the start and flew home to be 4th. Did incredibly well to hit the frame. Noel brought him over for a hurdle race at Newbury a couple of years ago on Hennessy Day, on Ladbrokes Trophy Day, should I say? And
oh yes.
And so clearly that's in his thinking that he might come over to Newbury again. He's definitely a well handicapped chaser. He's off the same mark as Yanworth actually, and look, they're both a bit dodgy jumpers, but they both stay well, and they both got a lot in hand of the handicapper, in my opinion. I'm quite interested in Snow Falcon for that race.
Okay, final word goes to Binners.
Well, Tom's earned his lunch at the sponsors' golf day on Wednesday, having come up with the proper name for the Hennessy.
Oh, that's my fault. Terrible.
Very good, Binners.
Hey, there you go. Listen, the Hennessy's far too difficult for me. I'm just concentrating on the flat. But whatever Paul Nicholls, the Somerset Sorcerer, wins the Badger Bear Chase with at Wincanton later on in the year, whatever wins that well for him, I'll go for in the Hennessy.
I think Black Courtney said he's aiming at the Hennessy, so he could be quite interesting.
Perfect.
And finally, the best non-British chance in the Arc. What's he?
I thought we had to give a horse to watch over fences this season. No?
Oh, well, you can do that as well.
Well, I'll do that because I looked at the Arc field, and it's not going to be won by a non-British or Irish trained horse, I don't think, looking at the list.
Well,
I think Study a Man was the closest. He was about 20 to 1, and there's Japanese horse Clincher at 33, so doesn't look one of their best ones that they could bring over. So I was going to say Santini. Really looking forward to him going over fences. I'll be amazed if he doesn't, isn't running in the RSA chase come next March and going there with a very good chance.
Okay, Tom, so a non-British hope for the Arc and a chaser that you're looking forward to.
I think their best chance is probably with the Breeders' Cup turf winner Talismanic for Andre Fabre. I don't think he'll win, but I think he's won a Breeders' Cup, finished second in a Hong Kong Vase or whatever, won his warm-up race the other day. I think he'll go there. He could do I've got Alzheimer's. I can't remember the name of the horse that finished second in the Arc last year, trained by Andre. Cloth of Stars. He could do one of them, couldn't he? He could finish, if he got a nice draw, he could finish in the frame in the Arc. Definitely, he's good enough. So Talismanic would be the best non-British horse for a chaser to follow next year. Funnily enough, I was really interested in watching a horse yesterday at Worcester. It was only a quiet day, but I was really looking forward to seeing Flying Tiger make his chase debut, because he's had a wind up. He won the Fred Winter, and he travels really well on good ground. He's a horse I've always thought would do well over fences, but something went wrong. He didn't run, so probably can't put him up. Kalashnikov is my horse. I've loved Kalashnikov since the moment I saw him. I think he's going to be a wonderful chase. There's no reason why he shouldn't. And as much as I like Santini and Sam Crow and Mellon and all those other ones that might go chasing, Kalashnikov is my horse.
Very, very exciting times. Binners, over to you.
As for a horse to go chasing, I would love to see Sam Crow go over fences. Ruby thinks he should go next season. It's debatable whether he'll stay over hurdles or go
What would you
chasing.
do, Binners? Chasing?
Well, I'll go with Ruby, as he is our ambassador. I've got to stick with him. He made some valid points about why possibly he should go over fences straight away, and he does look a chaser in the making, doesn't he? So I'd love to see him over the bigger obstacles. As for the non-British chance in the Arc, Nick Watts didn't read the question properly. It was non-British, not non-British and Irish. There you go. Pedantic. I'd go for Saxon Warrior. I think he's a bit of a forgotten horse. Aidan and Donica still rave about him, and I think we'll see a different horse next time, and I hope he turns up at Longchamp in October.
put in my place there by the St Ives sorcerer.
He did it again, didn't he?
we're
Absolutely
all,
brilliant.
All of
he
us,
is.
that's all we ever get is just put in our place for St Ives sorcerer. Tom, before we go, I'll just ask you and Watsy, Sam Crow, hurdles or fences?
I'd love to see him have a crack at the champion hurdle. I love champion hurdles. I don't see that. It'd be great to see him there, wouldn't it, against Beauvedere? I think we're pretty weak in the 2-mile hurdlers division, and give Sam Crow a shot.
I get really bored by these kind of discussions. You just want them to make the decision and then get on with it.
Come on, Watsy, don't be such a moony moany. What would you prefer?
I'd probably give him a crack hurdling. I think horses generally are shoved over fences too quickly. I would love to see Altior running a champion hurdle before he went chasing. So there's plenty of time for them to do that. So I'd give him a champion hurdle campaign. But let's just, Michael O'Leary, just hurry up and tell us and let's get on with it.
Okay, and on that note, if you enjoy these shows, make sure you rate, review and subscribe to them on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes or any other platform you are listening to us on. We'll be back on Friday as usual for the tipping postcast. We'll see you then.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is the Paddy Power, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather or the gym.